This is the Alden Report.
Today's episode is brought to you by FrontRowBenefits.com, connecting consumers and businesses with front row access to the greatest health insurance that the United States has to offer. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. Folks, listen, if you're like me, if you own a business, if you have a family, or if you're an individual and you're looking for front row access to healthcare, maybe you're tired of your premiums going up. Maybe you don't want to pay those high deductibles anymore. Maybe you're tired of paying more and more for your monthly prescriptions, and you want to make sure that you're getting that VIP access, that front row access. Then visit FrontRowBenefits.com and get a free quote. They're connecting consumers and businesses with the top level insurance carriers in the United States at discounted prices. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. That's FrontRowBenefits.com.
This is the Alden Report.
All right, we are here in Blue Bay Studios, and sometimes we have technical difficulties. I'm looking at 3 different computers here right now. You can't even see any of them. We've had some internet issues. We've had some audio issues. This microphone that we're looking at is not even on. I think we're just using the audio straight from the computer. But you know what? We're going to make it happen today. My next guest is a classic entrepreneur with an amazing story. He's also an author. He also helps people build businesses, not only on Amazon, but just straight e-commerce as well. He's built businesses that have generated not millions, not hundreds of millions, but in that $1 billion mark. He's also kind of in the space that I've been in for a while as well, which is supplements. Really interesting guy, motivational, character as well. When I've kind of learned a little bit about his story, he's an entrepreneur that has seen it all, and he continues to grow his business as well and help others. Please help me welcome Shaahin. Did I say it right?
Shaahin. Excellent, yeah. Mike. Thanks for having me on, bud.
I tried, man. My real last name is actually, you can't even pronounce it. So Alden's not my real last name. So we can get into that at a whole nother point. But listen, man, I appreciate you being here. I just want to first off apologize. We had a scheduled date before. We had a conflict. I think it was my daughter's. Was it my daughter's soccer game or is it she had appendicitis? I forget which one it was.
Oh man, family first. That's what I always say. Nothing more important than family.
That's it, man. So listen, man, again, appreciate you being here. I know you're busy. I know that you have a podcast yourself. You have a pretty massive YouTube channel as well with a bunch of subscribers. Your background is really interesting. I don't believe you were born in this country. You've been an entrepreneur since you were like a teenager. Let's start there, man. Let's start with, when you're 15, 16 years old and you start to build a pretty massive business. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we came to the United States as immigrants in the late 1970s, came here when I was 5 in Iran. I was top of the heap. Things were good. We were solid middle class. Came here, we were solid lower class, virgin gone poor. My dad had to work at pizza shops and dry cleaners, cleaning clothes, just to make ends meet. But we managed to get by somehow, moved to an affluent neighborhood in the United States that wasn't affluent when we moved in. It quickly became gentrified. And there I was, 15 years old, looking back going, man, look at all these people. Look at all this wealth that's around me. I want to be a part of that. And the closest I'd ever gotten to that was my little illicit entrepreneurship activities in grade school in my adolescence, where I would come to school every day, get the shit kicked out of me. I'd be the recipient of the worst ass whoopings every day when I was a youth, growing up in the United States after Iran-Contra. So I decided I was going to start this illicit products business in school. And I got together all the kids in school. And by the way, I write about this in my book, Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult, which just dropped. But I started this illicit products business, and we had this little Greek kid. He was a little person. He was so cute. No one expected him of anything of him. He would slide under the metal detectors, fill his pants with little bottles of booze and glue and cigarettes and nudie magazines. And we would sell them through our students, through the people at school. And we were very successful at making money. Terrible criminals, horrible at crime. We would get caught almost every time. There was pretty much not a time where we committed crimes where we did not get caught.
Now, who was catching you? Parents, teachers?
Everybody. We were so bad at crime that it was like, it was comedy. It was like a Key and Peele sketch or something like that, where you got these criminals that are great at selling stuff, but terrible at the actual act of crime. So I decided early on that crime would not be something that I would be pursuing. By the time I was 15, I decided, you know what, man, I want the wealth. I want success. I want the Porsche and the beautiful brunette girlfriend and the big house. And I walked up to my parents and I said, all right, so how do I get that? And they laughed, chuckled, and they were like, well, go to school, be a doctor. I was like, all right, you want me to become a doctor? No problem. Let me do that. That's how you get there. Like, yes, look at Mr. Fangangangin across the street. He is doctor, the pinnacle of success. So I looked at that dude. I went to talk to him. Dude was fat. Dude was bald. He wasn't very happy. He was a pretty sad guy. He would leave the house around 5 o'clock. He'd come back around 8 o'clock. He was fat. The wife was fat. The kids were fat. The house was like, it was super gaudy. And I was like, dude, I don't want to be this guy. I want to have real wealth. What about that guy in the Porsche with that beautiful blonde going by? How do I become that guy who doesn't have a care in the world? He's got a surfboard in the back. And my parents just laughed and they said, well, you just go become a doctor. I said, okay, well, how long does that take? Well, it takes 10 years and your internship and your residency. And then you got to pay off your debt. And then you maybe have a private practice. And by the time you're done, you'll be 55 years old. And I said, fuck this, dude. I am out. Had a backpack and a broken down car. And I took off. Really? And I car ended up breaking down, ended up sleeping on the beach. Decided that wasn't for me. I was eating relish, ketchup, and tortillas because it's what I could get for free at these hot dog stands because ketchup and relish and stuff was free.
Oh, I hate relish, man. I hate relish. But I guess if you had no choice, I'm going to eat it.
You can live on it.
Yeah.
And I soon learned that brokers, and LA was going through a building boom at the time. They were building all these crazy houses and these 100-unit luxury apartments. I realized that if I was clean enough to just show up at one of these, and by clean, I mean clean appearance, show up at one of these things, I could learn the code to the lock boxes where they held the keys, and that nobody would show up in these units, probably until 11, 12 o'clock when they were doing their first showings. So I could slip in at night, sleep in a luxury apartment building. Maybe it didn't have power, maybe it didn't have water, didn't matter to me. And then just be out. By the morning, I'd be fine. So I started doing that, and it was a pretty comfortable existence. I managed to learn that I could eat better at the community college because they had all these events where they give away free food. So I started hanging out at the community college, not going to any of the courses except for the ones I crashed. I managed to get myself a mentor. I found somebody who kind of knew that I wasn't doing too well financially, decided to mentor me, got involved in the electronic music scene that was booming at the time.
So let me ask you at that point, how old are you at that point? So some perspective on that.
15.
You're 15 years old, you're out of the house, you're effectively homeless, you're squatting in luxury apartments, and this is in the LA area?
In the LA area, yeah.
So, and even back then too, there were no cell phones, right?
Yeah, this is before the internet, my friend, before cell phones, before any of that stuff was a thing. I had a pager that if I could keep the bill up, it was $5 a month. And if I keep the pager, I had a pager. That was how people got a hold of me. And then when I couldn't pay for that, I had a voicemail where I would have to drop a quarter in, put in a code, and I could listen to messages that people left for me. That was my only form of communication. So I decided that I was going to start to make some money, but how? I was looking around these raves that I managed to get into. I managed to convince the promoters to let me in. And I realized the promoters are broke ass motherfuckers. Those guys never made money. They were always escaping through the back door because they couldn't pay the DJs. The DJs weren't getting paid because in those days, nobody cared about people who were playing other people's music. And then I started looking around going, well, who's making money? Is it the building owners? Nope. Most of them were break-ins. We would go into these warehouses in the middle of downtown. Somebody would have managed to pry the keys in. Another guy would have climbed the flagpole into the power pole and take down the power. Another guy would like jimmy rig some plumbing, and somehow the party would happen. So the people who were making the money were the drug dealers. They were the guys standing around, nice clothes, fairly nice appearance, beautiful women around them, great fast cars. They usually lived in very nice places, and they would kind of subsidize this. They would give the property a little bit of money if the property owner was involved, or they would give the promoters a little bit of cash. They would give the DJs a little bit of cash and some pills. And speaking of pills, at that time, the biggest drug in the world was ecstasy, MDMA. This was the biggest party drug. It was banned sometime in the late 80s and briefly brought back and then banned again sometime in the early 90s. But the flow of this drug, which was the biggest party drug at the time, had dried up. The Just Say No campaign was big. All the economic forces were really tightening down on this one particular inflow of this drug. So I remember thinking to myself, man, I'll be like these guys. I'll be like these drug dealers. Why don't I just do that? And it hit me like a brick in the head. Dude, you remember your life of crime? You are not good at crime. You, sir, are not allowed to do crime. So I had another epiphany. In that moment, I thought to myself, fuck, man, what if I could make a version of this that was legal, that was natural, that was herbal, that didn't cause any side effects? What if? And I could make it for pennies and sell it for multiple dollars and be very successful. And I went about doing that. I managed to get myself a girlfriend, a seemingly impossible task when you've got nowhere to live and no money, but I did. Her father was the superintendent or someone important in some school district. I managed to convince her to let me in through the back door as dude was leaving to work through the front door with his suit and tie and all the stuff. And we started cooking up prototypes in the kitchen, started making up samples. And the first ones sucked and the second ones were a little better and then a little better. And after a couple months, Mike, we had a winner.
So you're like, so now you're like 16 years old or still 15?
Yeah, still in my teens. Still in my early teens.
You don't have a background in chemistry. You don't have a background in supplements. You probably, I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm an attorney by trade. I grew up in this space. I've defended people in federal court. So
wow.
And I've spoken in front of the FDA. I've lobbied for bills in front of Congress. So this is my world. And so when I think about that, you at 15 years old, you're literally just, what, did you go to like the local health food store and just buy a bunch of ingredients? Like what, like how did that, did you research ingredients and say, oh, things like, I don't know, 5-HTP or ginkgo or things like that, they're, have an effect on the brain. Like how are you, like, how did you come up with this formulation?
It reminds me of a really good point, and I appreciate you saying that. It's a fascinating background that you have too. So we'll definitely have to have you on our show and talk about that, because I think you've got some stories to tell as well.
Yeah, I do, man. I do.
But I think about it like this. In the times where I was a little Iranian kid, hanging out in the playground of these like affluent school in an affluent school district, being poor, not having money to buy clothes, not having eaten in a restaurant before, these kids had credit cards and trust funds. I had none of that. And every day I would get the shit kicked out of me. And I remember thinking to myself in those moments that, man, there's got to be a positive way to look at this. There's got to be something positive that's coming out of this, because I can't just be here to be delivered ass kickings day after day. And I realized later on in life that, as you very astutely observed, no, I did not have a degree in chemistry. I did not have a degree in herbology or herbalism. I didn't have any of that stuff. But I'll tell you what, I had a fucking master's degree in not fucking giving up. I had a master's degree at doing whatever it fucking took. I had a master's degree in not taking no for an answer. And that's what I did. I walked into places. I walked into Chinatown. I found a guy who knew about herbs. And I said, dude, you're going to give me some of these fucking herbs. I'll pay you. I don't have money now, but I will pay you. And 9 out of 10 guys said no. But that one guy said yes. And then I grew upon that. I picked up books. I called the authors. I called Andrew Weil, the famous naturopath doctor, famous TV doctor. He
Dr.
answered his
Weil.
phone, and he was in, I think, Arizona or something. He answered his phone and he guided me through the process. I said, how are supplements made? How do you make pills? How does this happen? So I find myself in my girlfriend's kitchen.
You know, I just want to stop you there because I get it, because I know the space. Like Andrew Weil, you know, was one of, and still to this day, one of the biggest names within the natural health and wellness space. And for you just to call him, it's such a beautiful thing because, you know, if so many kids or so many people just wouldn't even think to do that. But at 15, 16 years old, you had nothing to lose. Guy answers the phone, doesn't answer the phone, who cares? Man, huge balls just to do that, you know, just to even make that phone call, because at the time, he was the pinnacle of marketing, you know, health and wellness. Really, he was really kind of one of the first guys in the forefront. You know, there's a million guys out there like him now that have all tried to, you know, kind of copy what he's doing. But that's pretty awesome, man. I love it.
Yeah. Not only that, you know, he wrote the first textbook on drugs for the U.S. school district. And what happened was, I think, if I'm remembering the story right, those books got banned because they didn't want people knowing the truth about drugs. They wanted people to just say no. They didn't want the nuance of like, hey, some drugs might not be that bad. Some drugs are worse than others. Maybe it's the use of them, the dosage of them. They didn't want kids to learn that stuff, which was very interesting. Now, back to the kitchen. I'm there cooking this up with this little girlfriend that I had at the time. And I didn't have enough money to buy the machine to put it into capsules. So I learned quickly that you could roll them up into something that looked like capsules, put them in the oven. And that's what we did. We put them in these little baggies, like the little drug baggies that Ecstasy was usually sold in. And I decided, I thought, you know, this formula is winning. We had all the teenagers in the neighborhood taking it, having crazy parties. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to go sell this. And I'm going to sell it distribution first through these drug dealers. These guys are all sitting around with nothing to sell. Now's the time. So I walked into a rave, the biggest drug dealer at the time. I remember this dude, he had tattoos on his face. Now, if you have tattoos on your face, they give you a platinum record. They call you Post Malone. Back then, if you had tattoos anywhere near your face, you were an insane human being. An earring meant a whole different thing in the 1980s than it does now. So you can imagine this.
Before you be like, I hope you got plenty of time, because again, I don't think you knew this stuff about me, because I really get this space. So the ingredients themselves, you know, I'm guessing you're not going to PubMed and you're not pulling, you know, double-blind placebo-controlled studies and just saying, okay, I need a gram of, again, I'm just using 5-HTP, you know, for it it doesn't necessarily cross the blood-brain barrier. You just kind of maybe learned a little bit about this stuff and, you know, its effectiveness, and anecdotally, you and your girlfriend are probably trying it, saying, oh, okay, this stuff works. Is that really what was going on? And what were some of the ingredients that you like? What was the active that really kind of had the impact?
Yeah, great questions. And I can tell that you know a lot about this stuff. So we were using herbs that were grass, generally recognized as safe, is what they call them. And we were going for one thing. We were going to mimic the effects of MDMA, methyldioxymethamphetamine, ecstasy, Molly. That was the goal. I wanted to make a natural version of the stuff that wouldn't hurt people, that people could have a blast on, and the next day be great, not go to jail, not die, none of these crazy things. And we did it. We succeeded. The main ingredient was ephedra. The secondary ingredient.
I was gonna say ephedra like 1,000%, because I was in my head. I was doing the timing of it. I'm like, it has to be ephedra. Was it actually ephedra, or was it?
It was ephedra. Nope, it wasn't ephedra. We didn't use any chemicals, which is one of the reasons why nobody was ever harmed, ever, in the history of herbal ecstasy. Not a single proven incident of adverse effect, not a single proven incidence of any kind of harm or injury coming to anybody ever from our product. And that's saying a lot, because we were the largest importer of ephedra ever in history. Number 2 was Herbalife. Mark Hughes, who the now deceased founder of Herbalife, made his fame and fortune selling ephedra for weight loss.
That was that was their weight loss ingredient.
Yeah. How old are you, Mike, if I might ask?
46.
Okay, we're the same age. We're the same age. So we
all this. I was thinking. I discovered ephedra in high school, the Metadrain. They were mini tabs, 25 milligrams with guaifenesin in it. And the size I am now is the same size I was in high school. Even like my junior year, I was 6 feet 230, and I tried ephedrine for the first time. My max bench at that point was 275 pounds. I tried 50 milligrams of ephedra, and I benched 275 12 times. And I was like, holy shit, like this, you're like fucking Superman on that stuff. Ephedra, I still to this day, I still think is a great product. Okay, so ephedra,
so for the record, and I do have to say this, and I'm sure you stand for this too, that neither me nor Mike are espousing the use of any supplements. We're not doctors or qualified in any way to give you any kind of medical or health advice. So we're just doing this for entertainment purposes. So anybody watching this, please consult your doctor.
I'm a lawyer. You're acting. You're
a lawyer.
I know that you've been to the ringer with the feds and stuff. So too, maybe you're still feeling a little bit of that impact.
Oh no, I mean, I just like to inform people to make their own decisions, right. And talk to your doctor before taking anything new. Last thing I'd like to hear is somebody taking something that I recommend and maybe it not fitting their diet. So I just give that as a disclaimer.
So the main active in this was ephedra, which makes a lot of sense because it's fast acting.
Wasn't just ephedra. It was a combination of ephedra with caffeine from a specific Brazilian plant called guaraná. Now, the combination of ephedra and guaraná in the right proportions, and it's a delicate art getting it in the right proportions, you usually have to add other herbs to make it work. Were the winner in there. But there was like about 9 different herbs, and we had it tuned in where it was really fun. It was amazing. And I enjoyed ephedra too, much like you. I think it was like the ultimate nootropic, and it's a shame that it got banned. Many people blame it on me getting banned, but I don't think it was necessarily me. I think it was the political climate at that time.
Do you know the attorney Jonathan Emord? Do you know who he is?
What's his name?
Jonathan Emord? No.
No.
He's a pioneer attorney in this space. He's actually sued the FDA like 10 times, and he represented a ton of ephedra guys.
Okay.
But yeah, no. So okay, so you're out there. You literally, and by the way, people don't realize as well with Herbalife was that's basically how they sold their product in the beginning as well. And they were in like little baggies, and people didn't realize it. That was like kind of the beginning stages of Herbalife as well. So okay, so you're selling the stuff in the clubs. What happens next?
So I walk into a club. We're talking to this drug dealer. Dude is scary, tattoos on his face. I'm sweating bullets. I walk up to him. I say, dude, he's like, fuck off, kid. I'm out of drugs. I said, well, wait a second. I don't want drugs. He's like, what are you, a cop? I'm going to fucking kick your ass. I said, nope, definitely not a cop. Not a cop. Don't want drugs. He's like, well, what the fuck? Like people see me for one of two things. So what do you want? And I said, I want you to sell this. He's like, what the fuck is this shit? I'm holding up this bag. It's these goof-filled, things. They're kind of messy in the bag. They're like sticky. He's like, what the fuck is this? He's like, you want me to sell this? And I said, yeah. He goes, what is it? And I had this like brain fart. I was like, fuck, what am I going to say? I said, Herbal Ecstacy. I said, what? I said, get the fuck out of here. Just in that moment, 2 customers walked up to him and I saw him talking to him. And he had motioned for me to leave. I was standing there, feet glued to the ground. I didn't know what I was doing. I was thinking to myself, you better go. Time to go, Shaahin. Time to leave. Turn around, walk away. This is your chance. My feet were glued, nailed to the ground as this man was talking to these other 2 people, and everything starts moving in slow motion. Then I notice him waving his hands around and the people pointing at my bag, me handing the man a baggie, him grabbing the baggie and my entire backpack filled with pills. And he looked at me and said, come back in 2 hours. You better not be fucking with me. At that point, I started to think about where the exits were in the place and what I would say when his bodyguards or goons caught me and were going to try to kill me and how I was going to get myself out of this mess this time. It was the longest 2 hours of my life. He had mentioned, don't go far. I was waiting. Finally, I come back. He has the backpack, but it's empty. People seem to be having a good time. This guy did not have very much emotion on his face. He had the 3 little things, which I think means he killed someone in jail or something like that.
And this is Miami, right?
This was Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And he's looking at me. I can't tell if he's happy or if he wants to kill me. I'm going through the list of excuses I have for him not to kill me. I'm going to work for him for free. I'll do whatever it takes. Please don't kill me. And he's just standing there quiet, staring me down. I'm sweating bullets. I'm about to say something. The second the word "I'm sorry" is getting ready to come out my mouth, he looks at me and he goes, "Kid, when can you get me more?" And that was it. He had sold out. Everybody loved it. And we went from that one guy to 10,000 guys to 20,000 guys to 30,000 guys. A lot of these low-tier drug dealers became legitimized. I created many, many millionaires in those days. We started selling to Urban Outfitters. We moved to other brick and mortar. GNC was selling our product. 7-Eleven was selling our product. We were selling through liquor stores, supermarkets.
Now, was there one particular trade name, or were you following
Herbal Ecstacy?
It was called Herbal Ecstasy. That was
just Ecstasy. We called it Ecstasy misspelled.
So you weren't able to get it. Oh, wait, you misspelled it?
Yeah, we misspelled it with a C. So it's ECASTACY.
And I'm guessing you probably were denied a trademark because it was too descriptive. Yes.
No, we had a trademark.
You got a trademark on it.
I still have the trademarks. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because generally it all depends on who you get in the USPTO.gov, but generally a mark like that would be denied for mere descriptiveness because you're just describing what the product is, and generally that's when a trademark gets denied. But and by now you've already kind of made it to the point where if anyone were to move to cancel it, it would be highly unlikely. So okay, so it's called Herbal Ecstasy, and so you weren't knocking yourself off, because a lot of times what we've done before too, it's the same product, just same ingredients, just different names. So it's the Herbal Ecstasy, but so you're selling it. You're essentially what you built as a direct sales organization, really, is what we're talking about, right? With retail, if you have these guys that are selling the shit on the street.
Yeah, it was the first time anybody had ever looked at an illicit channel of sales, and instead of selling them illicit products, sold them legal products. We went backwards. From there, Larry Flint called us, the big pornographer, Larry Flint, Hustler magazine. He got it into all the sex shops. So he started selling it into all the sex shops. There were thousands of sex shops. We opened offices in Tokyo. We opened offices in Berlin, in France, all over the world.
So how old are you now at this point? 19, 18?
Yeah, somewhere early teens, late teens, something like that.
Okay,
late teens.
This is like, your story is just amazing. And, I just can't wait to continue. So the title of your book is called Billion: How I Became the King of the Thrill Pill Cult. The book is available everywhere right now. You can actually just go right to Amazon and check it out. And, your name is spelled Shaahin, and the last name is Cheyenenne, correct? Yeah.
Cheyenne. Yeah.
And so also you can just visit they'll be in the show notes as well. You can also just visit his website as well, where you can pick up the book. But the story so far is just interesting. And I know the book just dropped, so you just got it out there. It's available on Amazon. Today's episode is brought to you by FrontRowBenefits.com, connecting consumers and businesses with front row access to the greatest health insurance that the United States has to offer. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. Folks, listen, if you're like me, if you own a business, if you have a family, or if you're an individual and you're looking for front row access to healthcare, maybe you're tired of your premiums going up. Maybe you don't want to pay those high deductibles anymore. Maybe you're tired of paying more and more for your monthly prescriptions, and you want to make sure that you're getting that VIP access, that front row access. Then visit FrontRowBenefits.com and get a free quote. They're connecting consumers and businesses with the top level insurance carriers in the United States at discounted prices. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. That's FrontRowBenefits.com. So, okay, so here's the part there's so many, your story is just fucking wild so far. And I'm super, and I hope people are also, I'm interested because this is, I grew up in this space. So, I mean, I was taking ginseng before anyone knew what it was. I did a science fair project in 15, the effect of ginseng on rats. You were selling it. I was just screwing around. 18, 19 years old, as a kid who, like you said, you're first of all, English, I'm guessing, is not your first language. You're an immigrant. Your parents are immigrants. You've had the shit kicked out of you for many years while you're here in the United States. And now you're dealing with some of the biggest retailers in not only in the United States, but worldwide, 18, 19 years old. Did you have difficulty overcoming the fact that you were just a teenager still? Were people taking you seriously?
When you are young and you achieve great success and fame at an early age, you oftentimes lack the sophistication that comes with age and wisdom, which is why I tell people mentorship is so important. I did not really have that kind of mentorship as I was coming up. So I did not fully understand the full breadth and depth of accumulation of that kind of wealth. And I'll tell you, so I am now a teenager, now running this company, making hundreds of millions of dollars, offices in all these countries, over 200 employees just in my office in LA. We were producing this stuff, Mike, for 25 cents a unit. I got it down to that. We were selling it for $20 a unit, mostly direct to consumer, a lot of it cash. I mean, there were oftentimes duffel bags piled upon duffel bags of cash, $100 bills stacked in my office, gold, watches, diamonds, all that stuff. People would pay us in whatever. Now, we also, in those days, had a very healthy distribution business where we would sell to distributors, we would sell territories, and they would take it and sell it in other places. So I have, imagine, houses, multiple places. I had a beautiful mansion on the beach in Malibu, Celebrity Row. All the top celebrities were my buddies. They all wanted to come to my parties. Collection of exotic cars, Ferraris, Porsches, Lamborghinis, the whole thing. I remember I bought a limo at one time, a stretch limo when those were a thing, just for fun.
Just imagine, man, as a listener, just imagine if Instagram was the thing, then you'd be like, you know, it'd be massive like that, you know, back then, you know, right?
You don't need to actually have that.
MySpace hadn't even come out at that point yet, right? I don't think.
No, there was no social media.
Right.
But now you don't really have to have any of that shit. You could just rent it and talk about it on Instagram. You only got to own it.
You had all that stuff.
I had all that stuff. I had all that stuff. Dude, I wouldn't sleep. I would sleep maybe 2 hours. I drooled on the passenger seat of my Lamborghini maybe for 15 nights straight. I would just, I'd drive to the office. I wouldn't feel like walking up. I'd crash in this car. I wake up, the fucking door. I'd forget that the doors would open this way. I'd like be bumping my head. I'd walk into the office. I'd pick up the Ferrari. I'd drive down to the beach. It would be a normal day for me.
What were your parents thinking at that point? Were your parents like, what is going on?
Well, I cut ties when I left home. So at this point I hadn't reconnected with them yet. I reconnected with them much later.
Okay.
So I show up at my office this one day and my secretary is pale-faced. She didn't know how to tell me. And I said, well, what is it? She looks at me. She goes, Shaahin, I got to tell you, the news broke. It got out. I don't know how it leaked, but that we've broken the $1 billion mark in revenue. $1 billion in revenue. Like you said, pre-internet, pre-Facebook, pre-social media, no smartphones, none of that. Pre-Silicon Valley. We made $1 billion, broke $1 billion in sales. Now I'm having a panic attack because I, A, realized that I probably should hire an accountant, and B, that I'm probably going to need a real attorney. I had a hippie attorney that was my staff attorney. He was this crazy hippie dude that barely passed the bar and would do totally wacky things like send my lowest grade employee into court as him, telling the judge that he was the attorney because he was too busy getting stoned and banging chicks in the office. He was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas times 10. And I remember hearing this news that we had broken $1 billion in revenue and thinking to myself, holy fuck, I don't know how much $1 billion is. Literally, I don't know what $1 billion means. And I started looking around. I looked in the dictionary. I was like, fuck, is it a British billion or a US billion? Did I make 1,000 million, 100? Like, that was my level of sophistication at that time, having no high school education. I had dropped out of high school. And they calmed me down. They said, look, Sam Donaldson with Nightline, the amazing reporter Sam Donaldson is outside waiting to interview you. London Observer is doing a cover piece on you. They want you on Details magazine on the cover with Chris Cornell. They're going to want you, New York Times, LA Times, Newsweek. We had 2 Newsweek covers about us and our products. So it was a wild time, to say the least. And you should definitely check out a copy of my book, or we can definitely send you one. But there's a lot of stories about my wacky lawyer that I think you would appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, as you told the story, my story is pretty wild. This isn't about me, but I mean, the day I started as a lawyer, the company that I was in-house for got sued by the FTC, the FDA, the IRS came right behind them, and then it went criminal. That was literally like my first, I didn't even have my BBO number yet.
Wow.
Okay, so you do this $1 billion mark now, and then we're pretty much pre-internet still at this point, right? So you're not dealing with merchant processing. You're not like an affiliate guy. You're not doing trials. You're selling straight to retail. And you've built a direct sales organization. Is really, again, what you've done, similar to, like what, like an Avon would do, not Amway or Herbalife. That's a little bit of a different, but because you weren't paying overrides on people, but you had like this army of people literally on the street selling this stuff for you, plus retail, right?
Yeah, that's true. We were doing phone sales at that time. We had a TV commercial that was running.
Oh, you did? Okay. So, all right. So you were processing credit cards.
We were processing credit cards. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We had multiple credit card processors. And I know that was a thing at that time, but we never had a problem with the credit cards. For some reason, I think people charge back all kinds of things. When people are buying quote unquote drugs, people don't really charge it back. Right. It was the strangest thing. People were really worried about us having lots of chargebacks and issues like that. We had almost none. We had no returns, no chargebacks. Maybe people really loved the product. It was so good.
So, as you start to, I guess this is, maybe I'm backing up a little bit, but as the brand is starting to grow, as you're starting to become more legitimized, where you got actual companies, you have actual employees, trademarks, formulas, trade secrets, things like that. And you had this, even though you had this hippie lawyer, did you look at whether or not the formula itself, and the individual ingredients or the formula itself, other than anecdotal data and your customers telling you how great it was, did you have the science to back up some of the claims that you were making, or were you still kind of just like, oh, this works and everybody knows it works?
It worked. Okay. We didn't need to do any of that. I was too busy making money. We were too busy selling it.
Right, which I'm guessing. I've seen some of your stuff, but I'm guessing which was probably a big part of a big mistake. So you didn't change the formula or anything like that. No lawyer came in and said, hey, Shaahin, like, this is a cool formula, but the science does not match up to what you're saying.
We weren't making health claims. This was not a health supplement. You weren't taking it to cure, treat, or diagnose any disease. You were taking it to go out and party and have a good time, or a lot of people took it to get a boner. In the 1980s, one of the world's biggest pharma companies, all this is alleged, by the way, I'm gonna say alleged so nobody sues me, since you're a lawyer too, had come out with the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, these SSRIs, which were one of the most popular drugs of the 1980s. Very good in treating depression in some people, allegedly, but had one really bad alleged side effect, which was erectile dysfunction and sexual dysfunction, even in women, allegedly. Well, turns out these same pharma companies, one in particular, had this magic pill, maybe a blue pill, that solved all that in the 1990s. So the baby boomers coming out of the 80s who had taken all those antidepressant drugs and we're now experiencing sexual dysfunction as a result. Well, guess what? We've got the medication for that. One problem, my friend Mike, and that is they were not planning on a long-haired Iranian kid selling an unregulated herbal supplement that worked without any double-blind placebos, none of that stuff. No bureaucracy, no red tape. It was a one-man show. It was me. I was the one making the decisions at the end of the day. I was the last stop in the road.
So we're talking about two different things. So when people understand, you really have two basic types of claims. You have what they call a structure function claim, and then you have what you just said, a health claim or disease claims. So there's a lot of different ways that we can talk about. We don't need to go down the legal rabbit hole, but So, but you weren't saying anything like, "Hey, take this and it'll reverse the effects of, things like, Alzheimer's or anything like that." You were just saying, "Take this and it will have an effect on the structure or function of your body." In other words, you take this and you'll have more energy, you'll feel better. Those are the types of claims you were making, kind of those flowery, puffery type claims. You weren't really there was nothing as it relates to, like you said, a disease state.
I don't even think we were making those, man. I think we were just saying, here's a great vibe. Take this pill to party. We weren't really telling them anything at the end of the day. And that's what drove them crazy. So what the FDA cracked down on was they tried to say that because the only thing they had left standing, they made all these claims. They tried to say structure and function, unapproved new drug, all this stuff. And at the end of the day, the only agenda they could push is saying that we were an analog to drugs because we had the same name as a drug. An argument was, no, we don't. We're calling it Ecstacy. So technically, we are not, and that doesn't, just because the name sounds similar, doesn't make it an analog. That's all they had, the only thing to hold on to at the end of the day. They had nothing on us. They didn't know what to do. They wish that we made a structure and function claim or that we did anything that they could crack down on. But they couldn't. They were just saying, well, this is unprecedented. Nobody had ever taken a herbal supplement and offered it up recreationally. It wasn't a thing.
What year was this? Like when this was kind of going down?
This is the early 90s.
Okay. All right. So like 93 or something like that?
Probably 92 onward.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So still early on, and DSHEA wasn't until 94, the Dietary Supplement and Health Education Act. So you're still definitely, when we talk about the Wild West, it was still kind of the Wild West out there. So the federal government probably didn't even know what to do because they didn't even have any guidance other than the fact whether or not it was considered unfair and deceptive, just in a general sense.
Sure. Big pharma backed big government went in and lobbied against me. They appointed a head of the FDA, who I believe his name was David Kessler at that time. Kessler, career political appointee. Kessler came out against me personally. He was on TV saying, hey, it's too late to act after the horse is out of the cart. You got to give us more of these broad sweeping powers to get rid of this plague of herbal ecstasy. And I remember the guy asking him in one of the interviews saying, well, what's wrong with this stuff? And he said, well, don't you know? And I said, no, that's why I'm interviewing you. What's wrong with it? Well, it's immoral. That was all they could hang on to was that it was immoral. They had no reason. There was no injuries from our product. And then they started pushing the agenda that someone's going to get injured. And we were like, dude, we've sold $1 billion worth of this stuff. No one's gotten hurt. There's more people hurt from pharmaceutical drugs. There's more people hurt from crossing the street. No one's gotten hurt. In fact, we feel like we're safer than most supplements out there. And that was the problem.
So when you have that kind of heat on you, when you have the head of the FDA, people don't realize how powerful. I mean, people probably heard it. You've seen it. I've seen it personally. I've lobbied for bills before and been in the halls of the Rayburn building in Congress and actually seen lobbyists deployed to every office within minutes. People don't realize how powerful the pharmaceutical industry really is. So that's where it starts. You have, the head of the FDA is not your friend. Then I'm guessing, again, I haven't read the book and I've read a little bit about your story. Then I'm guessing you probably have class action lawyers probably coming at you, et cetera, et cetera. So let's get to that when it gets really fucking nasty. Because I'm guessing I read some of the settlements and things like that. So I'm guessing it started to really get nasty.
And it didn't get that nasty. But I can tell you my solution. I've got a great legal solution. Fantastic. I recommend it as legal advice to anybody going through a lawsuit.
This is non-legal legal advice.
Non-legal legal advice. So similarly, I am not an attorney. Don't listen to me. I am probably the sophistication of a chimpanzee.
Well, but here's the thing: it's like, again, so we'll get into like really what happened, which I don't know because I didn't read the whole thing. So, but like I did look at some of the stuff. At that point, though, the heat is on you hard. Like the federal government is looking at anything and everything they can do to shut you down, plain and simple.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, we had the whole thing. We had the mob coming after us. We had the Japanese Yakuza coming after us. We had the government. We had people that were paid off allegedly by other people to come make threats. We had the whole thing. I had the whole thing. And mind you, I'm a teenage kid sitting on $1 billion in revenue company with the head of some investment bank wanting to take us public on one end, and on the other end, just trying to manage the madness of the time. And I remember there was a time where I had my staff attorneys, and then I had these law firms that I was hiring, and I was just looking at my legal bills, and money was coming in very fast on one end and going even quicker out the other end, because it's hard to fight all the states and the federal government and all the 3-letter agencies, and it gets expensive. So
I love, by the way, a second ago you said it wasn't nasty, but to me, I think that's pretty nasty.
Yeah, you got to remember, I was always that kid who, no matter how many times they knocked me down, I'd get back up. And I didn't understand defeat in that way. It didn't matter. I wasn't going to quit. Much to my, I think, detriment. I should have settled with them, because what they do, and you know this, is they come to you saying, okay, look, we could destroy you, but we're not. We need a mea culpa. You apologize. You sign a settlement agreement. You give us some money. It wasn't a lot. They were asking for, a percentage. It was like, I don't know, a few $100,000, maybe $1 million in aggregate for all of them. You pay it off, then you're done. You say sorry, you get a slap on the wrist. You change your ingredients a little bit. You change your claims a little bit. They do a big press hit. You go out and you say, look, I'm really sorry. We've changed our packaging. We're never going to do this again. It's no longer called Ecstasy. It's now called Extano or whatever. And then you're good. That's what people play ball. They
The other part too, just for people like who don't know that time, is that right around that same time as well, we talked about the main ingredient was ephedra, but the federal government was coming after ephedra pretty hard as well, because ephedra can be used as a base for methamphetamines. In fact, it is. People were in fact dying, but they were taking shit tons of it. They weren't taking what was in yours. They were using it as a party drug. They were snorting it. It was considered the poor man's cocaine. But they were fighting that at the same time too, and that was your main ingredient. So that was probably one of the big reasons why they really didn't like you.
I'm not sure you can make methamphetamine from ephedra. I think there's a couple steps in between. I think it's got to be synthesized.
Ephedrine.
Yeah, ephedrine is the active alkaloid in ephedra, but you would have to produce ephedrine.
Was the one that was in a lot of the
People got injured from ephedrine, from what I understand, allegedly, but I don't know anybody who got injured.
But the thing is, it's funny. Even me as a lawyer who's in this space, like there is a distinction, but but congressmen, even the FDA, even the FTC don't understand the distinction. So you're selling ephedra, which is natural, versus ephedrine, which is what people were taking. We had to do a lot of educating. And if you watch any of my videos, my old interviews on Montel, Sam Donaldson, any of that stuff, you'll see every single episode I'm going through that process of educating the interviewers. Excuse me for a second. So we're on with Shaahin, right?
Shaahin, yeah.
Shaahin. Listen, we've been going for a while, and I apologize for the people listening right now. I think it's interesting because I am super interested, because it's the world that I've grown up in. His story is amazing as an entrepreneur, as an immigrant. He comes over to this country at 15 years old, effectively homeless, leaves home, sees an opportunity, and really kind of takes the bull by the horns and really kind of grabs on to the American dream. And when you talk to others, we've had others on from that are from other countries, like Brian Buffini is from Ireland. He's one of the guys that I can think of off the top of my head. He wrote a book called The Emigrant Edge, where people emigrated here. And when you hear about people who come to this country who didn't have anything, were in war-torn countries like Shaahin, and they see the opportunity here, they really take it to another level. And there are so many people that are born in this country that maybe grow up in a tough background like I did, and they just don't do anything because they don't necessarily see the opportunity. The opportunity still exists today. So if you'd like some more information about Shaahin, you can actually just visit his website. I'm going to spell it for you because I can't really spell it well. I'm going to take my glasses off too. It's SHAAHINCHEYENNE.com. So it'll also be in the notes there as well. You can go there, you can check it out. Check out his book, which is also available on Amazon. It just dropped. Billion, How I Became the King of the Thrill Pill Cult. Interesting guy. Again, if you've listened to it up until this point or you're watching it right now, you just cannot just discount, what he's been through. And not only that, but people don't realize the stuff that he's been through has really kind of paved the way for a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself. So again, I appreciate you being here. So, as most entrepreneurs, we all go through hell and back, and sometimes we go through it multiple times, not because we've made the same mistake, but it's just the life of an entrepreneur. So you're at the top, you're at the pinnacle, but the shit's starting to happen. As a lawyer who has defended guys in federal court, I've seen what the government can do, both federally and the different state AGs. And if you have a bunch of them coming at you at once, plus class action, it's literally the perfect storm. So talk about, that process for you and what you did to manage it. Because I know we kind of got to that point where like, hey, listen, let's settle this. You decided to fight, it sounds like.
Yeah, cloudy Thursday afternoon. I show up into the office. I fire all my employees, all 200, one after the next. I fire all the lawyers. I fire the accountants. I grab some crayons.
Which, by the way, some people don't realize as well, especially in California, that in and of itself has all sorts of problems. When you fire that many people at that amount of time, it also creates some regulatory issues with the state as it relates to the Department of Labor. But anyway, go ahead. You probably didn't know that until you did it, but
wasn't a problem. And I grabbed a box of crayons and some of that craft paper the kids draw on, and I started making my own envelopes. Got some of the fruitiest stamps. I think it was Looney Tunes stamps or some cartoon stamp from the post office. And I started writing to all the people who were suing me with photos of myself from different magazines, clipped by hand, and handwritten letters in crayons. And I started dropping them in the mail. And as the first few arrived, you would be shocked at how quickly those lawsuits went away. The attorneys got wind of the fact that I might be broke, which I wasn't, and that I might also be clinically insane. I went to court, I dismissed all of my attorneys, and I filed in pro se for any of the stuff that was against me personally. And now they knew I was defending myself. For the company, I just let it slide. And at that time, 99% of that stuff fell away because I was, in their eyes, crazy. Nobody lets their attorneys go and starts to fight this thing. I never saw a day in court. I never saw a day in court for that stuff, for any of the 3-letter agency stuff, for any of that stuff. All of it was quickly dropped. I settled a little bit of it. We did do a settlement with the FTC at some point, which might be the one that you read. We settled with, I think, 1 or 2 of the other agencies at some point for no money. I never paid money. And that was it. And I moved on. And I moved on to an equally difficult problem, and that was of smoking. And in those days, I realized people have been smoking for 2,000 years, maybe longer, smoke, tar, carbon monoxide, but no real solutions. So I invented the digital vape, the vaporization at that time. There was no choices.
I saw that, and you can go to your website. I know you're one of the first guys to actually get a patent on the delivery system as well. Yeah. So, but before we get to that point, so everyone thinks you're insane. You're not. $1 billion in revenue sounds like a lot of money. My company has generated hundreds of millions, not billions. But what people also don't realize, even though it's costing you 25 cents to make and you're selling it for 20, there's still all these other costs that are involved. At that point, at 19, 20 years old, however old you are at that point, how are you financially? You spent a ton of money in legal fees. Are you good? Are you still a multimillionaire, or are you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was all right. I mean, look, I spent hundreds of millions of dollars in attorney's fees and fighting things and doing stupid things that I shouldn't have done. I blew a bunch of money. I didn't have the sophistication, but I was also smart enough to keep enough to make sure that I'd be good.
Right. So now you get into this vaping world, and it's also just a really kind of messed up space as far as I'm concerned. But you're one of the first guys here in the United States that created, or at least got a patent on the delivery system. Tell us about that, man. It's wild too, as well. We built a pretty.
There was none. There was none. There was nothing. Ours was the first in the market. I was making them for about $20 a unit. If you wanted to do something besides smoke, you had nowhere to go. That was it. We were it. The only portable digital vaporizer in the world. And so we charged $400 for it. It was the size of a ketchup bottle, and people loved it. We sold them all day long. And I exited that in 2006. That company then went public. So I believe it's public now. I'm no longer affiliated with it. And from there, I decided to develop a brain supplement. I watched that Bradley Cooper film Limitless. I thought, man, I want to make that pill. And we came up with a formula that was really awesome, that I thought worked really well. One big problem was that the formula was expensive to make. So a bottle of that stuff would end up costing $120 in those days. Now it's cheaper. Now you can get Excelerol or Focus Plus, any of our products on Amazon. It's like $40. But back then it was $120. I thought to myself, man, where am I going to sell this? Where am I going to find customers? And this was before Bezos was the richest man in the world, before Jeff Bezos was still a Silicon Valley kind of deer, but he was a nerd. He wasn't the superhuman richest man in the world, buff dude that we know now. So I remember you could get a hold of him. You could text him, you could email him, he'd respond. You could call, you get a hold of him. Turns out through the grapevine, we hear that Bezos is opening up the Amazon platform to third-party sellers like you and me to sell whatever we wanted. I was like, shit, this is perfect. Let me put it up. I put Excelerol and Focus Plus up on the Amazon platform, went to sleep, didn't think much of it. Took me 15 minutes. Woke up the next day to thousands of orders, thinking, holy shit, there's something to this Amazon thing at $120 a piece, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I decided to look into Bezos. And I realized that this was not a chump. This was a dude who was poised to lead the world in e-commerce. He was going to create the world's biggest e-commerce platform, and he didn't care how long it took. He was going to take cheap money from Wall Street, put it into Silicon Valley, and he was patient as all hell. He would wait however long it took. If it took 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it didn't matter. He was going to succeed. So I decided to go all in on the Amazon thing. And we learned how to become the top seller in our categories and one of the top sellers on the platform. And eventually people started coming to me asking me how they could do the same, how they could find a product. And now I teach a course. For any of your viewers or listeners that are interested, I'll give the course for free. We have a 1-hour course that teaches everything from how you find a product, how you brand it, package it, sell it on Amazon. And we do that all day long, creating lots of future millionaires now. And that's my goal now, is to impact as many people as I can to create wealth the same way that I did back in the 1990s. And I like to encourage people to do that now, is to really think about creating recurring revenue streams so you don't have to sell your hours. And that's what we teach in Amazon Mastery and my FBA seller course, which is fbasellercourse.com for anybody that's interested.
Yeah, I was watching some of your videos, and I just really I really like how you explain things. I like how you break things down for people. A lot of us, we don't do a ton on the web, believe it or not. And you do kind of simplify it. And I also like the fact that you're also realistic with people and letting them know that, hey, these things may happen to you. This is how the process works. These are all the steps that you need to take. Hey, by the way, we've been through it multiple times. We know what to do. Here's a template. Here's how to fix it. Because a lot of people, they just want that. They want to put their thing up on Amazon and go to bed and wake up and have thousands of orders, but it's not like that anymore. So I really like, what you're doing, what you are for people. What's that website again where people can go to?
Right. So it's www.fbasellercourse.com. Or for anybody that's listening to Mike Alden, go ahead and send me an email. I check all my emails and we'll respond directly to you. It is darkzess@gmail.com. That's DARKZESS gmail.com. Make sure to mention Mike Alden in the subject heading and that you want the 1 hour course. It's normally $200, but anybody who's listening to your show, we're going to give it to them for free. You got nothing to lose. We don't need a credit card. I just want to help you start an e-commerce business. So if you're interested, learning about how to find a product, how to sell it on the Amazon platform, how to get reviews, how to build that into a business, you can do it for little or no money. Reach out and I'm happy to help out.
I love it. Yeah. Again, and you've been doing it for a long time. We've had some other, kind of e-commerce experts. We've had Trey Llewellyn on. I don't know if you know Trey, and we've gone probably just as long with you, because the thing, and I think I really appreciate again what you're saying. When people look back, and if you look back in the time when you started your business at 15 years old in the 90s, the internet didn't exist, and the opportunities weren't as great as they are now, and so. And a lot of people, even like myself, who's not necessarily tech savvy, we might get overwhelmed with, oh yeah, I know it's there, and there's some stuff that seems simple, but there's also some very specific steps that certain people need to follow in order to be successful. And so, and I know that you're offering that, and for you to offer that to our listeners it is really awesome. Give that website just one more time.
Sure. It's www.fbasellercourse.com, or reach out to me directly via email and just put Mike Alden in the subject heading. That's DARKZESS @gmail.com.
That's really amazing that you're doing that for us. In fact, you've probably seen an email from me because I want to get the course. So let's talk a little bit about your book. So you decided to put your story, a lot of it, in the book. Tell us a little bit about that journey. I don't know if you know this about me as well, but I've written several books myself and help authors, get their books out to the masses as well. So tell us a little bit about that journey. Again, the title of the book is Billion: How I Became the King of the Thrill Pill Cult. Tell us about that book, why you decided to write it, and how has it been so far?
It's been amazing. The Audible book just dropped. So for anybody who's listening to the show and you prefer audiobooks, I know a lot of people do. I did that. It's a slog recording an audio.
It is. I've done it. And, recording your own audiobook is a lot of work.
It's a lot of fucking work. I had no idea. I thought I'd sit down and record. I was like, oh shit, because the thing is, you're not reading every chapter once. You might read every chapter 10 times and it's exhausting, but I did it. I think I did a pretty good job at it. So I'm excited about the Audible release. It's exclusive on Audible. So anybody who's an Amazon Audible listener, please go check out the audiobook, Billion: How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. And the paperback book, what we do is Amazon. And so we're super excited about launching this on that platform and seeing where that's going to take us. So I'm excited about that. We have it on Kindle. We have it on Amazon. We just got a film deal that I'm super excited about. Hopefully soon there will be a film about this in the next couple of years, which is super exciting.
And there should be, because I could just sit here and talk to you for hours. Before I let you go though, I like to keep the podcast, evergreen is what people say. So we try not to, talk about things that are specifically kind of topical to what's going on in the world right now, depending on, when they listen to this. And again, folks, if you'd like some more information about Shaahin, listen, I'm guessing I'm not the only one might have trouble. You visit his website. It's SHAAHINCHEYENNE.com. And you can learn about him, but you can also engage with him as well. Like you mentioned, if you need to rewind it, go back. He gives his personal email where he's going to respond to that. If you want to learn more about him, if you want to be mentored by him, he's doing it. He's helping entrepreneurs just like you, kind of grow their business. So before I let you go, again, I try to stay away from topical stuff, but I think it's important because if they're listening right now, as someone who sells on Amazon, I know it's not exclusively, but you're really kind of crushing it there, not only for yourself, but for others. Supply chain management. We sell supplements. And I had an instance, and I have what we do is we layer in our POs with multiple manufacturers, same formula, so that if there is a breakdown and with one we should be okay. But we had an instance where one of our manufacturers has been doing stuff with us for 15 years. Usually an 8-week lead time took them a year to deliver. So what's going on with supply chain? Are there any ways we can hedge against it? Are there any particular types of products that aren't being impacted? just really like to hear your thoughts on that, because you're literally in the front line of this stuff.
Yeah. And I think it might get worse with a lot of things. A lot of people, especially in supplements. I mean, for you guys who don't know right now, the ports are all backed up. I'm in Los Angeles. Where are you, Mike?
Boston.
Boston. Okay, cool. You're not Canadian, are you?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. So you're out of Boston. So even Canada is going to start to have problems with this stuff. But our ports here in the United States are backed up. It's partially a problem of governance and regulation, partly a difficulty in organization. There's a union component to it that needs to be addressed. But also, it's just that all these ships are at bay. People are buying more crap. People are buying tons of stuff. We're coming out of COVID. People seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Most people now are vaccinated where possible. And the curve has gone down in a lot of places as we make this recording sometime in, end of October of 21. And those opportunities are there for people to make sales, but people are like, oh, well, screw it. I'm not going to produce in China. I'll make my supplements here in the US. Well, most supplements are made here in the US, believe it or not. We actually have Chinese people paying us for supplements in China, to buy for us to produce them here to ship to China, because anything that's automated is going to be cheaper to produce in the United States because it doesn't require manpower. Where China has the advantage is manpower is cheap and supplies are cheap because of resources. So certain things like plastics or things that require lots of manpower are cheaper in China. Now, when you say, okay, screw it, I'm going to make my supplements here, sure, there's lots of great supplement manufacturers here. But what are you going to package your pills in? Probably bottles. Where do those bottles come from? They probably come from China. Oh, no, we got a US manufacturer of bottles. Really? Where do they get their plastic material? Where do they get their pellets to make their plastic? China. And all that stuff is stuck on containers now. If you go down to the port of Long Beach and get a little boat and drive around, you'll think on the brightest, sunniest day that it's dark days and nights, because the ships are piled so high and so long that they block out the sky. As far as the eye can see, container ships, they're cruise hungry, people that haven't seen their homes in months and months just waiting. And here at the port, they're taking 1 or 2 containers every few hours off. You're talking thousands of containers backlog. And as of today, I know certain states, I think it's like Florida, some parts of Texas, and other states have been like, hey, we'll help. Let us help. Our ports are open. Bring your stuff here, and we'll unload it. But the fact is that you're talking about a big bottleneck that's going to take a long time to fix. So you've got some vendors whose pockets are deep, like the Home Depots of the world and companies like Lowe's and Amazons of the world that have managed to charter ships. I've even heard of companies chartering consumer level ships, individual personal level ships, filling them with inventory and getting them here because they don't have to go through the ports and the container rigmarole if it's a private yacht. So I've heard of people even doing that. I've heard of people flying in products at a loss of hundreds of dollars a unit just to get it here so they don't lose the customers. They're going to lose the revenue. It's okay, but they don't want to lose the customers. So things are crazy and they're going to get crazier. And I'm just going on TV this week to talk about that with one of the big news stations about how that's working. I don't see a quick solution, but what I do know is our students and the people that we teach have planned ahead, and that there are hacks around it where you can solve the problem on an individual basis. And again, if anybody's facing that problem and they want to know how to prevent it from happening for them or their companies, reach out to us, and I'm happy to have a call with you and discuss it.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you being here. Your experience is just unparalleled. At a very young age, you really kind of took the essence of the American dream truly and done something, great. And entrepreneurial is really just an understatement, for what you've done and what you continue to do. So I'm like I'm a real underachiever listening to you. Everyone is listening to you. And for what you've done. So again, if you'd like some more information about Shaahin, you can just go to his website, and it's spelled Shaahin, HinCheyenne.com. It'll also be in the show notes as well. And before I do let you go, one last thing, I'm going to have you tell us exactly where to go. The viewers and listeners right now, you're offering them a free access to one of your most popular courses that I think you've even charged thousands of dollars for. What is that website? How can they go there and really get access to it?
Yeah, you guys can get me through my regular website. I'll give you a few different ways to be in touch with me. One, join our podcast, subscribe and like. It's called Hack and Grow Rich. You can check that out. And by the way, I'll put this up on our channel for you too, so we can get people to the Alden Report. I'm sure our viewers would love that as well. So guys, if you're watching this, make sure to subscribe to Mike Alden and the great content that he's putting up. Sounds like he is one of the more educated pod show hosts online. I know a lot of people in the Amazon space and supplement space are interested in that. So let's make sure we contact Mike and join his group. But for anybody that's interested in us, you can get our podcast anywhere podcasts are found. It's Hack and Grow Rich, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Podcast Addict, wherever podcasts are found. You can get me at ShaahinCheyenne.com. We'll include it in the show notes. And if you're interested in the course, reach out to me by email or go to FBAsellercourse.com. And yeah, man. And the book is Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. Get it on Amazon, get the Audible, check it out. Leave us a review. Tell me you love us or hate us. Doesn't really matter. As long as we impact you to make a change in one way or another, I'm happy.
Amazing, man. Again, it's just been an amazing show. This is what we do here at the Alden Report. We bring real people doing real things with real stories, making a real impact again on the world. So Shaahin, I want to thank you so much for being here. My name is Mike Alden. That's Shaahin Chen, and we'll see you soon. Today's episode is brought to you by FrontRowBenefits.com, connecting consumers and businesses with front row access to the greatest health insurance that the United States has to offer. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. Folks, listen, if you're like me, if you own a business, if you have a family, or if you're an individual and you're looking for front row access to healthcare, maybe you're tired of your premiums going up. Maybe you don't want to pay those high deductibles anymore. Maybe you're tired of paying more and more for your monthly prescriptions, and you want to make sure that you're getting that VIP access, that front row access, then visit FrontRowBenefits.com and get a free quote. They're connecting consumers and businesses with the top level insurance carriers in the United States at discounted prices. Visit FrontRowBenefits.com. That's FrontRowBenefits.com.